Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy fall weekend to join us for some continuing education about making short videos. Our instructor today is Emily Hamann. Emily is an award-winning graphic designer, digital artist, avid photographer, and social media manager living in Shreveport, Louisiana. She works with the American Rose Society as associate editor and communications specialist. You might recognize her work laying out the magazine, running various social media pages, and more. As well as her work for the ARS, she teaches several college classes in Digital Media Institute and works under her LLC, Social Butterfly Advertising and Design. Her love of people and the community keep her busy with various groups, nonprofits, and volunteer endeavors. The most recent being she and her friends' grassroots free community closet, Out of the Closet. After Emily's program, there will be another time where I'll be speaking, and then a little bit after that, we'll have some question and answer session.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It is nice to be back. I really appreciated everybody's feedback from the last one and that people actually did email me with questions. Same kind of goes for this one. I speak a little fast and I might say terms that I just forget people may not understand. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. My email will be at the end of this presentation, or it's just emily@rose.org. But I want to jump in with a little bit of introductions. So as she was saying, I am a communications specialist, and specifically for videography, it's something that I do a little bit less of, but I think I might be just right to teach all this. I'm not an expert in specifically videography, but I do a lot of beginner kind of easy videos, a lot for social media. I've made a couple of commercials, even did work on a music video before, all using tools that for the most part y'all will have at home or is pretty cheap. All of them I've used. My phone, the camera that I have on it is pretty good. So though I'm not like the biggest expert at videography, I think I might be able to kind of meet everyone where they're at. So I generally work on a team. I curate the film, script, maybe like a storyboard or whatever needs we might have for it, shot lists, and then I turn over the footage to an editor. So editing might be the hardest part. We're going to briefly kind of touch on it, but as I understand, we have an editor who's on board to kind of help y'all with yours. So it's very beneficial to give y'all more time to think creatively rather than just spending time in front of a computer editing. So you guys can focus on getting creative shots, neat views, good video, and then the ARS will kind of help polish it up for you. I think I'm correct in all of that. I wanted to, before we begin, I don't know if, Elena, if you wanted to do this now or after, but a quick introduction for some of the consulting Rosarians. So we're promoting the ARS and consulting Rosarians just as much as Rose culture. So we just kind of want to take a minute to kind of meet. So just say your first name and the zone that you're in and your ARS district. Kim, do you need to let people be not in listening mode for that?
I thought that would be the instructions for when they do their short videos rather than today.
Okay, I might have misunderstood that part. Well, good. I was like, okay, that's a lot of people to kind of go through. But anyway.
No, it was like when they start their video.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Okay. So we will put this PowerPoint presentation up on the website if you wanted to either download it for like extra notes, or if you wanted to follow along or send it to somebody else who maybe missed it. But we're just going to go through a couple reasons, maybe why we film, how we film, some of the terminology that you'll start to pick up, the tools you'll need, and then a couple of tips and tricks to kind of help it be a smoother process. All right. So one of the main questions we get is why actually film videos? They probably take the longest, aside from like a website of other marketing avenues. But I just wanted to start with like a quick little graph to kind of help visualize that data. So this is showing favored marketing tactics by different marketers in the US, and it shows that 41% suggested that they were looking to explore video as it's expanding in the digital kind of field. So having said that, written content still will remain kind of the king, with images being next in line. So it's not totally uncommon for marketers to be confused about which way to go, especially if the time and budget don't allow for videos. But it's no secret that images are much more affordable compared to videos. However, they might not have the best reach and engagement, especially for what we're trying to promote. So an image might not be the best for every situation. A strategically placed and well-made video can actually offer a 95% retention rate over video or over static images alone. We still need images, articles, and graphics, but a well-rounded mix of all of them is best. If you were there for the social media seminar that we did, I mentioned that a lot of my pages should have a pretty good mixture of either videography, static images, articles, branded posts. So videography, there's definitely a place for it, but I think it's one of the harder ones to just kind of totally dive into. So videos can be better for driving clicks and engagement, and we mean like literally someone clicking on it to watch it instead of just scrolling past it. And engagement meaning either sharing it, sending in a message, downloading it, or commenting on it or reacting to it. So they're often more labor intensive to create, and they take a long time to craft, which is into something usable. So it needs a lot higher level of investment than other forms, but it's still very valuable. So why do we specifically, especially as ARS members, need to film it? So images can only convey one thing at a time. So more info means more images and more text, and a video can actually solve that problem. I'm big on work smarter, not harder, and saving as much of your time as possible, but often a video just makes more sense for what you need to tell people. So they force scrolling users to stop and pay an extra second of attention to the post before understanding the gist of it. So an image we could scroll by, we could recognize there's a person in it, we could maybe read some of the text on it, but a video is good for really just kind of grabbing people's attention. So a recent Google study showed that 60% of consumers and 59% of executives, higher ups, would prefer watching an ad rather than reading one. So 50% of them want to see more video content from a brand or business, especially ones that they support. Videos have a really good way of connecting with people on a much deeper level than just purely aesthetics. So I think that kind of helps them become a little bit more familiar with your brand. I say brand, but really we mean like, you know, roses in general, what it's like to be a part of your local rose society, what it's like to actually be a member of that community. So they help us become a little bit more familiar with the people, and considering the fact that videos are 12 times more likely to be shared, which is a pretty high number, especially because shares are what I would say most people would prefer. It's kind of the utmost of what people do on social media is a share. So your brand will actually get bigger boosts from videos that are especially social or educational, which is I think a lot of what the ARS will be making. And so in today's digital world, the majority of users, about 27.2% of all people using social media, will spend more than 10 hours watching videos on social media specifically, including YouTube, every week. That is a lot of time, and especially if we can put videos in front of them that they want to see, which is a lot of asked for content, is how to grow roses. It's a lot easier to kind of show people specific topics rather than just have them read an entire article, perhaps get lost, not know. There's a lot you can't really convey that you could show. So how does filming help the ARS and specifically consulting rosarians and local rose societies and even just the rose growing community in general? So we want to promote roses in an effective and easy way. We can also use them to share news as it happens, live videos, or even after the fact to kind of, you know, fill people in on stuff that they missed. You could film your award ceremonies, rose shows, info, how-to videos. The list kind of goes on and on. So we really want to show people what they're missing. We all know, I mean, if you're sitting here, you know that you love growing roses. This is a very vibrant community, a very tight-knit community, but a picture is only worth 1,000 words and a video could say all of them. So we really want to help show people and visualize what it's like to participate in this community. So it goes back to videos connecting with people unlike any other media. Photos do okay, but you know the phrase, the camera adds, I always say this, I'm like, the camera adds 10 pounds, not because it's distorting you or anything, but we're only capturing like a little snapshot of what it's like, of what a person is. So if you just got like a still photo of me, you don't really get to capture my gestures, the tone of my voice, the way I move my lips when I talk or anything like that. We kind of miss all the personality. So that one little snapshot doesn't say as much as a video might say. So let's talk a little bit about the platforms, where your video will be seen and different pitfalls to avoid or different tips and tricks to make sure that your video fits on each platform as best as possible. The main one, and I'm sure you've all visited at some point, is the rose.org website. So these videos will be horizontally, which from the side landscape, I just want to make sure you know, but horizontally placed so that they can kind of take up the entirety of the screen like this slideshow is. We upload our videos on YouTube at the highest, you know, quality that we can, because YouTube will auto convert it for wherever it's embedded. Meaning if I want to upload 500 videos that are super high quality, super high resolution, but really high file sizes, we're going to upload them on YouTube. So we save our website a little bit of, you know, space. It helps it run a little bit quicker. So YouTube kind of does that work for you. If you initially host all of your videos on YouTube and you just embed them on your website or share them to social media from there, it does the converting for you and you don't really have to worry about anything after that. Our website specifically, if you do make a couple with us, we get about 23,000 site sessions per month. And that's some visibility that you could really take advantage of. About 5,000 users on our video pages alone since January, meaning people just coming to look at the webinars, our how-to videos. And we host our videos on YouTube to kind of drive that traffic back to YouTube so that people know that they can subscribe. And then once they subscribe, they'll get notifications so that whenever we post another video, we just keep having that constant flow of traffic from our website to our social media pages, which kind of helps us move up on the rankings. The next platform, as I just mentioned, is YouTube. Once again, you're going to want to shoot that horizontally as well. And you can upload it at 1080p, which we will get a little bit into those later, what all that means. And it will auto convert it wherever embedded. So let's say you take it at a very high resolution. People could use a full screen on their desktop and nothing would be blurry. You can also get away with 720 and 480. Your file sizes will be lower. They'll be a little bit easier to upload, a little bit quicker. You can get away with it, but once that screen is stretched, you might lose a little bit of that quality. It might become a little pixelated or blurry, which is not the worst case scenario. But if we're showing pictures of beautiful roses, we want to try and get them as crisp as possible. So YouTube also does very well, especially if you just take the time to curate that subscriber list. People are pretty religiously visiting our page whenever they get that notification, oh, the ARS has uploaded a new video. Some of our videos went up to, I think, 30,000 views and 3,000 hours of footage watched. And those are some pretty good results. You can always check the analytics tab to see which videos are doing a little bit better, which ones you should spend more time on, or which ones you might not need to really do anymore. But yeah, some of our videos have reached anywhere from like 18,000 to 80,000, I think was the top one. And that was just a garden tour. That was so many people exposed to how beautiful that garden was just by using YouTube. They do very, very well. I'd highly recommend a garden tour. So by regularly posting, we added over 400 subscribers who get notified when we post, and we can continue to build that audience. But yeah, if you ever need any help figuring out what our analytics tabs are, or what some of those terminology, or what some of that terminology means, feel free to email me. I think it's kind of fascinating to scroll through and to see which ones people are really about. I know that the webinars do very steadily well, but what I was really surprised about was people really gravitated towards a mixture of some of those garden tours. And it was just somebody walking around with a selfie stick. It doesn't have to be perfect and flawless. So aside from YouTube, we have just social media in general, and I'll kind of vaguely talk about them because a lot of the specs are the same. So videos posted on social media get 48% more views. That's staggering results I mean, as far as everywhere else you could put it or try and host it, put it on TV. Social media is basically the big dog in this market. So if we're posting to Facebook and Instagram, they're kind of the same as far as what you need. If we post on our feed, which is just something that pops up, you know, as you're scrolling through, that regular video just needs to be landscape or square, especially for how we're going to be editing them and kind of like working in tandem. So landscape or square is best. I've included a couple of these different pixel sizes to make sure that your video doesn't get cut or squished, and so that as people are scrolling, so when they click on it, of course, it'll, you know, go to the correct size. But as you're scrolling, you really want to make sure that that video is not super clipped or it doesn't have a weird orientation, because that first thumbnail that they see is going to be what kind of draws them in. So the usage for that is it lives on your feed forever. Feed videos also work really well to engage your existing audience rather than pulling in a new one, but there's a lot of ways to target a new potential audience. We also have stories. There's short clips that can be viewed on your profile or a follower's main page. They're like the little circles. If you log into Facebook or Instagram, there's the circles up top. And those are only available for 24 hours unless you save it to your page and add it as the featured story, and then it doesn't go away. But they're a little bit more casual. They're not there permanently, so it's a really good opportunity to kind of get some of that behind the scenes footage or just in the moment kind of content. They're great if you want to keep it a little bit more underproduced. They're kind of designed to give your followers this I'm a part of the process feeling. They're very time sensitive, so you can use them for, you know, I mean, sales coming up, Rose shows, or hey, we're all at the Rose show, we've got about 6 more hours, you know, come out and see us. And they do very, very well with driving engagement with, once again, just your current followers. Next, we have Reels, which is kind of an emerging market. If you want to play around with them, know that once again, this is a little bit casual and there's no right or wrong way to make one. They are directly in competition with TikTok. So it's about a 90-second long video made up of single clips or multiple clips edited together. And like TikTok, you can add music, on-screen text, closed captions, visual effects, all that kind of stuff right on the app. Now that sizing is a little bit different if you wanted to play around with it. That's why I say they're underproduced. So you're going to want to do that in portrait mode. 1080 by 1920 will do just fine. Basically like you're taking a selfie. But that usage is really good for getting your content in front of a brand new market and a brand new audience and finding some new followers. I know a couple people in the social media game who have gone viral pretty easily just making a well thought out reel. So it's authentic content. Like it's really, we want to lean more towards something that is entertaining, educational, which is perfect for what you're making videos for. Something that's authentic and looks less scripted and less formal. But you can also, of course, do more scripted and formal stuff. Then we have live, and I'm sure I know a couple of people I've seen, or a couple of Rose societies are pretty adept at doing live videos now. Live videos allow you to broadcast live to all of your followers. Everybody gets a notification for it, so it's really easy to build an audience. If you get them immediately in the door with something engaging, all of your followers are going to get that notification, and you have a higher chance of getting people to actually tune in for it. There is a wide range of sizing that you can do for it. You can either do portrait or landscape. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. You're using your phone, it's going to auto convert for you. That usage is for interactive types of content. It allows viewers to ask questions and comment in real time, so they can really feel like they're engaging with you rather than just watching you. It's also automatically saved to your account, so if somebody misses it, they can always go back and take a look later. The next one is TikTok. And TikTok, I'm sure you've heard of it. It is kind of a daunting beast to tackle, but I think people find it's a lot easier to produce good content on TikTok than you would think. It just takes a little tiny bit of practice. Watch a couple YouTube videos on it. The sizes for TikTok can also vary. It's pretty good about auto converting that for you. And once again, that usage, like Reels, is 90 seconds long, made up of a single clip or multiple put together. And you can add those, all the same things as a reel. You do the same thing within TikTok. You can also film the TikTok footage and upload that and add things to it as kind of your dummy editor. I really, really do recommend people trying. It's not terribly hard to grow a following, and I know there's so many Rosarians with very cool things to say, I know there's a younger demographic that if we could target them with like little tips and tricks, like, oh, hey, living in an apartment, here's a way to do container growing. Little things like that I think would do very well. We see educational quick videos really resonate with that audience. So I also wanted to pull together a couple of the different stats for y'all about, like, I just mentioned all these different social media platforms, but which ones do best for sharing videos? YouTube will always be number one. YouTube has been the strongest sellers from the get-go, and that's kind of never really changed. Facebook is actually emerging a lot, and I think that if we were to do some of the math on the crossover between the ARS's audience and Facebook users in general, I think that number would go up. Facebook is perfect for what y'all are doing. And then you have LinkedIn and Instagram and so on. TikTok might be a little bit smaller, I think, but I think that's because a lot of marketers haven't kind of taken that dive yet. And then I also wanted to pull together what consumers are doing. So the first one is more so, where are marketers sharing their videos? And if they continue to share them on there, then these numbers, I mean, continue to stay as high as they are, it tells a little bit about how effective they are. But also I wanted to pull together what consumers are actually watching videos on. And not surprising, YouTube is still the highest ranks, followed by Facebook and then TikTok. It's a lot easier to watch TikTok, I think, than it is to just kind of jump out and make videos on it. All right, I want to go over a little bit of the terminology just so you either understand the words when someone's saying them to you, or if I rattle them off in this presentation, you'll know what I'm talking about, and also to give you, maybe spark some creativity and inspiration in the ways that you're taking this future footage. So the first one is B-roll footage. I am a huge firm believer in B-roll footage. It gives you flexibility according to the video editing rules when editing, because it's just supplemental footage that kind of makes previously choppy scenes a little smoother. So picture you're watching like a documentary on, you know, how to make something. It's that footage of like looking through the warehouse, watching a worker make something, and let's say for ARS's purposes, it could be you trimming a row, it could be you pruning a rose, it could be you watering one, it could be just a close-up of you holding one, and that's some really beautiful footage that will kind of break up the very educational content, or the educational script that you'll be speaking, and people just like to see roses. So B-roll can also provide a little bit more details to support the scene, like in news, weddings, films, interviews, kind of stuff like that. So if someone's interviewing and they're talking about a specific rose, you might want to grab some B-roll of that rose that you can just edit in between that. The next one is close-ups. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just shots that frame the subject tightly. The next one is cut-ins, or we call them insert shots. A cut-in is a type of shot that often shows the objects that the subject is in contact with. So if you're talking about pruning roses, it might cut into a scene of you actually doing it rather than you talking about doing it. They're a little bit similar to B-roll because they're helpful, and they help kind of get the camera off the subject for a little bit and give your viewer a little mixture of things to pay attention to. The next one is a medium shot. That's just known as the waist shot, and it frames the subject's upper body. That's probably, I would say, the majority of what y'all will be using. It's intended to direct the viewers towards the subject or the subjects while showing some of the environment around them. Perfect for a garden shot. Included a little picture so you can kind of see exactly where those are. Like I said, y'all will probably be working in this medium shot so it can show a good amount of this background. I don't know that you would need to do an extreme close-up, but who knows? Get creative with it. The next one is the rule of thirds. So the rule of thirds is, if you do a little bit of photography, I'm sure in visual impact you've seen 1, 2, or 3 authors mention the rule of thirds. If not, explain it. I just wanted to touch on it because it is super important. So the rule of thirds makes sure that the primary subject of the image is positioned where 2 of 4 anchor points are intersecting, and I'll show an example of that. They kind of draw the eye towards the main points of interest in the shot, and the viewer's eyes will naturally either linger or immediately go to the area you want them to focus on. It's basically applied to, if it's applied to basically any shot, you've got some pretty good composition. It looks a little bit well thought out. And there's plenty of science to back why that is so alluring, I guess, to people. So this is kind of a little example of how it's broken down. Like I said, you want to stay either in between one of these two intersecting points. I always go for the left because that's kind of the way that we read. It just makes a little bit of sense to people. Okay. The next one is aspect ratio. This is when we're talking about what sizing to do your videos for specific platforms. If you mess it up a little, you don't need to really worry about it, but I want to make sure that you're familiar with a little bit of these terms. So aspect ratio is going to relate to how the width and height of your video relate to each other. So those dimensions are expressed through a ratio. You might also hear pixel aspect ratio, and this is thousands of tiny squares, typically squares, that make up each image of your video. So while your aspect ratio is the ratio between just the width and the height, this is the ratio between the width and the height of the pixels themselves. So here's a couple different aspect ratio examples. You will probably fall in this 16:9 or maybe 1.85:1. I would say somewhere in between these two, but I want you to kind of see, so you might recognize a couple different videos that you see maybe in a theater screen as one pixel aspect ratio versus the others. The next term is pans and tilts. Also pretty self-explanatory. The pan is going to be a fixed horizontal movement made with your camera, like panning across a landscape. They're the opposite of tilts, which a tilt is just fixed vertical movements up and down. Very good to show like a full plant, a full garden, and just kind of the scenery. Pans and tilts are often B-roll, so kind of think of those terms as a little bit related, or they can be. Resolution also deals a lot with what we were talking about these different platforms. The main ones that you have to know about is the ones in bold. So 480 is the lowest, 720 is kind of like your mid-tier, and then 1080 is the highest for what we're doing, and that's about a regular desktop size, meaning that if somebody expanded an entire video, it wouldn't become pixelated. 480 would be for maybe your phone. So if I was taking a video that was only going on a phone, people are only going to view it mobilely, which is not often the case, I would want to stick with 480. My file size will be lower, the quality will be a little bit lower, but it's not being blown up and losing that resolution. The next term is let me show you a little example here. So 780, that's that mid-range. You can see it's a little bit pixelated, but if I were to just sit back a little bit, it's not too big of a deal. 480, on the other hand, it loses significantly more detail, but once again, if it's just being shown on a very small screen, it's not too terrible. And then 1080 is going to be that HD, that's a lot more crisp. So when we upload on YouTube, I always use the highest file size possible, because YouTube, they have the servers for that. They can handle it, and they're just going to convert it based on the platform I share it to. Next one is exposure. If you dabble in photography, you're very familiar with this, but it's just as important in videography as it is photography. Lighting is paramount when we're taking videos or images. So it refers to the amount of time that the camera sensor is actually open and like taking in light, exposed to the light. So the longer that exposure time is, the more light will hit the sensor and the brighter your footage will be, which we don't always want super, super bright photos, but we'll get to that. The next one is lower thirds. These are a great way to make any video look super polished, and they're very easy to do. All of the basic dummy editors I'm gonna kind of show y'all, it'll be very easy to add that lower third. It derives from that rule of thirds that we talked to, because it goes in that lower third quadrant. So the name, this is a type of title that is commonly used by news broadcasters, documentaries, YouTubers, vloggers, and interviewers. So let's say you've got the president of your local Rose Society talking about maybe a meeting y'all are having, or recapping an award ceremony. You might have a lower third pop up in the bottom that just says so-and-so's name, president of such and such Rose Society. And let me show y'all a little example of what it looks like. Yeah, it's a great way to, I think, just take your video up a notch, and they're very easy to do. All right. So next I want to talk a little bit about the tools that y'all will need. You don't need all of these. I guess I shouldn't say the ones you need. So some of the tools that you can use, you don't need all of them, but all the ones that I've included are fairly affordable, things you might already just have laying around the house, or things that you can actually make. The very first one is you're going to need, oops, wrong one. So the very first one that you're going to need is your phone or tablet or some other device. I like iPhones. I think every single one they come out with, they just have more and more options as far as better film, more HD. I think the new one has 4K capability. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a high file size, but that is, you're talking some very crisp photos there. They also have things called like cinematic mode, where it will follow your subject and blur out the background, action mode so that your subject stays crisp if they're running or moving or dancing or something. So iPhones are a very, very good substitution for an actual camera. I would say you really don't need to go buy one unless you already have one. Any iPhone or up-to-date Android especially, they have a lot of options. Maybe just give it a quick YouTube video, figure out what they are, play around with them, try out some different modes, and I think you'd be surprised at what all they can do. So underneath your camera settings, you can change the filming size to either 480, 720, 1080, HD, 4K. So make sure that you check in your filming at the highest quality possible, especially for videos that you really want to take some time, use a script, and do some editing on. You can go to your settings and then just camera, and everyone's works a little differently. If you get a little lost on yours, feel free to email me. So mine, for example, I keep mine, if I'm filming a commercial, I'll keep mine at 4K, which is the highest I can go, and I'll use about 30 to 60 frames per second, which is what that FPS stands for. That just means, like, if you ever watch like those new TVs that came out and everything looks so crisp, like so real that you're standing there, that's because they're using a very high frame per second rate. If you have a digital camera already, you are more than welcome to use that. It is also going to take exceptional sound and film. I just think it's a little easier with today's technology to just quickly email something from your phone or whatever. But you have it, if you have a digital camera, definitely give it a shot. Most have it. I prefer my phone just because it's easier. It's very portable. I'm always going to have it. The next tool, and this is probably this is my favorite. These are stabilizers, and there's a couple ones you can get, but I did include links with these. These help you do smooth pans and tilts and take really good B-roll, zoom. You can control all of it from your phone. Let's say I've got my phone in my hand. You know, there's a lot of shake, and you can always tell when someone's just holding the phone. These remove that entirely. It's such crisp footage. I really recommend getting one, or at least just watch a YouTube video, watch it in action, see the kind of footage it takes, and then that might convince you, so I don't have to. But yeah, they're not super expensive. I think Osmo has one that's on sale right now. That's like the basic starter one. I think it's like 60 bucks maybe, but yeah, definitely recommend them. If you are kind of waiting for that, or you're not quite ready to take that dive, a tripod is a simpler form of an Osmo, and it also works just fine. I will say that you will be stuck to a more rigid pan and tilt and zoom, but a tripod will work just fine. Anytime you're taking your phone out of your hand, because we're human and our hands shake and we're fallible and we might bump it, you're going to get a much higher quality of footage. And they make a lot of really good phone tripods as well. Amazon's got some for very, very cheap that have some pretty neat capabilities. You can go super tall. They can do all sorts of stuff. So if you're not quite ready to take the leap on a stabilizer, a digital stabilizer, tripod will work just fine. I've even told, when I taught photography to like little kids, like 9, I would even tell them use a desk as a stabilizer, use the back of a chair, anything to put it on something that's not moving and hold it that way. Whatever you need in a pinch will make it look a lot nicer. And then the last one is lighting. I did mention that this is paramount for every bit of footage or picture you take. I prefer, especially for videography, natural lighting, so something outside or something out on a patio, or open up all of the windows. but stay in natural shade. So the reason that I try and stay in shade is harsh sun is going to produce shadows on people's face. It's going to highlight people's imperfections rather than kind of soften them. I only take pictures in shade, or if I can't control that because I can't control the sun, I bring what's called a diffuser, and that's these little circles in the top right. So diffuser basically is like a cloud. So if I've got a super sunny day and all these harsh shadows, or there's sun coming through a tree and it's creating all these splotchy shadows on someone's face, I'll have my assistant hold a stabilizer up over that lighting. And what it does is it literally takes all of it and diffuses it, evens it out, and it creates shade without taking that light from you. So they are super handy. They're very cheap. I bought this one that has a diffuser, this white one, which is just a bounce card for light, and these reflectors, I think it was like $25 on Amazon. So super great purchase. You can also go out and get a foam core board to bounce lighting if you don't want to like get all the photography tech. You can also use things to bounce lighting on people if there's not enough. Let's say you're staying in the shade and you can't really see someone's face all that much. This like silver reflector is great for taking where that sun is and bouncing it and literally reflecting it back onto your subject. Or you can always just use a white piece of foam core board. You'd be surprised. I know I'll have to tell my assistants and like clients when I'm taking pictures, I'm like, I know you can't see that lighting change, but I definitely can, and the camera definitely can. The befores and afters before I start using one are remarkable. But yeah, so play around with that. Check your, you can always go, I do what's called a sight see if I can before I'm filming something or before I'm going to go do a photo shoot. I just go look at it during the time of day, even just drive by it. I see what the sun's like, where the shade is, and what, just to try and get a feel for the type of lighting that I'm going to need or have to be dealing with on the day of the actual shoot. However, reflectors, diffusers, that's all going to help you if, you know, something happens that's outside of your control. So before you start filming, set yourself up for success. There's a couple of things you can do that I promise will save you hours more time. It's going to feel like you're doing a whole lot, but it's really going to save you a lot of time in the long run. So the first one is you need performers or speakers. There's a couple different ones that y'all might be using. We have actors who are actually going to play a role. They might be like playing the gardener, a neighbor, a local Rose Society member. And you have speakers who do just that. They speak. They're really great at speaking. They could be announcers, judges. They could be our executive director, John, who's a great speaker, but find somebody who's got a really good presence in front of the camera, can speak and be very engaging, but also seems very approachable and like a real person, you know? We want it scripted, but we also want them to seem like somebody who exists in real life. And then you also have somebody like a model. Models will showcase either products or, I mean, obviously clothing, but for y'all's case, it'll be products. It might be like a rose growing tool. So let's say you wanted to do some B-roll of somebody actually pruning a rose while you're talking about how to prune a rose and when you should. You would have a speaker talking about how to do it. You'd have an actor showing them, and then you might have a model who's like holding it and you just do a close-up of them, you know, actually on the rose. So gather your performers and speakers, try and find some volunteers, people who do well in front of the camera, are comfortable, or just somebody who wants to try it. I think it's always super fun. I'm not an actor or a super great speaker or model by any means, but I find them all fun, and I find myself doing them all the time, like right now. So if you are getting people to do this for free and volunteers, we want to make sure that we keep them coming back, and we want to make sure that they have a good experience. One, because it's kind, and two, because they might be available to help you later. They might do really, really well in a video. We had a girl come visit the gardens, and she was down to be in a bunch of pictures, and her pictures do really well. We still use them, and she just likes coming back. So make sure that you have waters for your performers and staff. It's most basic of all of them, but water. People's throats are going to get dry. People are going to be tired. They might be outside. Maybe a dressing spot if needed. It could just be a bathroom that you make sure that the lighting is on and AC is on, but give them a dressing spot if that's needed. And then it's always nice to provide some snacks and shade where you can, so people aren't just standing in the sun and getting upset. Because when you do multiple takes, I mean, I'll be at a photo shoot or a video shoot for like the first hour is great. Everyone's super excited. They love it. They're having a fun time. By hour two or by the end of the shoot, they're done. You're not getting the same emotion out of them. You're not getting the excitement. They're just tired. So anything that you can do to alleviate that exhaustion is always super kind. The next one is save time. Don't keep them out there for hours and hours and hours. Be prepared. I cannot stress this enough. Make a script, even if it's just rough on note cards, especially if you've got a good speaker who's great at, like, you know, improvising. You could just say, and now talk about this. Make sure to bring up this. It doesn't have to be super scripted, like, hello, my name is so-and-so. Here, today we're going to do this. But you want some prompts so that people don't get lost and then you have to edit that out later, or heaven forbid, start over. And the script will help you figure out where to put these cutscenes so that your entire video is not just one big, long, rambling video. And you have to start over. It's nice to do it in smaller, shorter bursts. It'll save you a little time. You can be a little bit more organized that way. The next one is to make a shot list. And a shot list is basically just a list of the desired shots and clips you want. It could be, I'd love a close-up of such and such's garden. I'd love to pan across this, this garden. I'd like to tilt upwards at the end and have our logo pop up. That just helps keep you on track. So if you're looking at that shot list, you're like, boom, 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 we've got everything. You're not sitting there at the end like, oh my gosh, what do I need? And then getting back to the editing stage and realizing you don't have a shot that you need is one of the worst feelings. It is one of the worst feelings, because you either have to get everybody back and coordinate, or you just have to nix what could have been a very good idea. There we go. The next step, and I'm going to keep saying this over and over like a broken record, is to get your lighting correct. So I mentioned doing that sight-see, stop and prep for what you're going to need. It's always better to know beforehand rather than to show up and kind of be in a panic. So go to the plan spot, the time of that you might live there, it might be your garden, it might be where you meet for meetings, but test it out. You might have the spot that you really want to use and it's not super shaded, and so you might have to move around. You might have to move where the camera's going to be. You might have to reach out to somebody and see if they can assist with one of those diffusers, but also play around with that backdrop. You really only need about 8 feet or even sometimes less for the best shot, unless you're doing that pan or tilt up. But for the most part, if you've got a speaker or model or an actor or something in front of the camera, you really only need about 8 feet of space. The background's going to be blurred anyway, but it is always nice to pick the best 8 feet. So if I'm taking pictures of a model or something, they want flowers, I really only have to find one tree with flowers. We don't have to find like a big garden to go take a photo shoot. I just need that 8 feet of space so that we can play around full body, but I don't need this big landscape image of everything behind them. I just need one engaging, pretty spot to frame them, essentially. Backdrops are super important. I'm sure you've seen videos where, don't look at my backdrop right now, I just moved in, but imagine if I had a gorgeous garden behind me. I mean, what's more engaging? What would you like to see as a viewer? You'd like a lot of things to look at, especially if you get a little bit bored in the video. You can trail off and look at, oh, that's a really cool such and such they have. But yeah, so play around with your backdrop. That's where the creativity comes in. I know this feels like work, but once you really start to have fun with it, that's when the creativity kind of opens up. So your main checklist for the day of your shoot is going to be, make sure you bring your props. Make sure they're in a separate bag that just say props. Maybe you have a little piece of tape on them for whoever supplied them. I mean, it's going to be your tools, your plants. Do you need a pointer? Do you need a clipboard? Are you going to need gloves? Make sure all of that. It's basically, a prop is anything your actor or speaker is going to touch. So your setting and your stage and your backdrop are not things that they touch, although they might be things themselves, like a lawnmower, a wheelbarrow, a bench. But a prop is literally everything that they're going to touch. And you want to make sure that those are super organized so that none get lost. You know, that's one of those things that keeps people coming back if they get their stuff back. You know, they're treated right, you know. Make sure that you bring your lighting tools, a diffuser, a reflector, maybe a sheet. You can also use a sheet if you're in a pinch. Just a white sheet will diffuse that lighting as well. But get your lighting tools if you need them. Make sure to bring your stabilizer or your tripod, and make sure that if you get a stabilizer that it is charged and ready to go, because you can drain that battery quickly. I mean, I think the Osmo has a better battery life than the other ones that I've used, but still it should last the entirety of the shoot, provided you've prepped the night before. Anytime I have a shoot, I put on my to-do list, get my camera bag ready. And I don't care if I've only done one shoot since the last time I totally charged everything. I'm going to put everything on the charger, because you never want to be without. You never know what's going to happen. I've gotten to shoots before, and forgotten a memory card, and thank God I keep every single one in my bag because I would have to completely leave. We'd either have to reschedule, the client's gonna be mad, just so many things can happen. Chairs, if you need them, or a podium, where are people going to sit? Are they gonna stand? All of that kind of needs to be thought about. A simple stool sometimes is really effective, especially if you already have a great backdrop. A nice chair, a podium could be anything from, not like a super official one, but just something for them to lean on or put things on. You also, I recommend, I don't know if this is definitely probably not for your gardening videos, but tape and gaffer's tape, don't underestimate it. Get you some, gaffer's tape is just a specific type, meaning you can peel it off of stuff and it won't rip up paint. It won't get kicked by people's shoes. So if you want to go the extra mile and get the gaffer's tape that videographers use, by all means, it's not super expensive, but it's basically just a spot to mark where things are supposed to go. Like there should be a prop here, or when you're done with this tool, put it right back here so that it's out of the shot, because they may not know there's a lot going on. They're saying things. They've got a script, they've got cameras, everyone's staring at them. So that kind of helps keep everybody on track. It's great for deciding where people need to stand. So if they have to walk around, but you need them back at this point, you shouldn't have to keep redoing your shot because they keep walking out of frame. Put down that gaffer's tape and they know exactly where to stop. It takes a lot of stress off of everybody, and everything you can do to keep everyone prepped is best. Granted, you won't really be able to do that in the grass, but be creative with that one as well. Another one is extra batteries, chargers. A portable iPhone charger is really great. I know they're expensive, but they make these big blocks at like Walmart, and they're a godsend. I have had a camera try and die on me, and I was able to charge a battery on the shoot, just stick it in my bag and give it to a different photographer. So some people blow me. But yeah, extra batteries, chargers, I didn't include on here, but memory cards. If you're using a digital camera, make sure you have at least 2 memory cards. One might go corrupt for no reason, that you didn't do anything. We never know, sometimes they just do. So extra batteries, chargers, and then the camera itself. The camera, and then the digital camera, whatever it is, your phone, tablet, definitely don't forget that for sure. And then there's probably so much more that you're going to need to bring. We mentioned water, chairs, all that kind of stuff. So just kind of the night before, make that checklist, put it all by your door. So when you're running out of the house, if you're like me, a little bit late to everything, it's already set and ready to go and nothing gets left by the wayside, and you'll have a smooth shoot. So now actually shooting the video. We've talked a lot about what you need and how to do this and all this terminology, but filming the video is probably one of the more fun parts. However, if you just remember to start with your composition, composition is crucial. That's what I think turns a video from looking a little less polished into something that looks reputable. And we're not doing super polished stuff because this is what we're demanding of you. We do it because it makes it a little bit more reputable. You guys have very important things to say. You're all extremely knowledgeable, and we want to make sure that you're presenting your information in just a very polished way that everyone is going to take seriously. It's what I tell my clients. I'm like, look, yes, you have a great product, you make amazing food, you're a great local restaurant, but upping that like image a little bit, like that brand image, whether it's like your pictures you're posting or your logo or the videos you're taking, it's going to make you seem a little bit more, what's the word? Credentialed, I think is correct. But yeah, so your composition is essentially how the shot is framed. I'll tell you right now, you can get super creative with it, but if you stick to that rule of thirds, it will always look super composed. It won't look too staged. It's not going to look too stuffy, but that little off center rule of thirds trick, I mean, there's a reason it's been used since photography was around. But really think about your subject. How are you framing your subject? Are they super tall? Should we really be filming them from below? Are they super short and you're filming them from above? There's a little trick that I always tell my students when they're filming somebody or taking their picture, get on their eye level. When we take pictures from people down below, they tend to look threatening and a little too authoritative. And if we take pictures from super above, they look a little childlike, and we want to kind of get on their level. I also tell them, don't make your subject move unless, you know, you're moving to a different spot. Zoom with your feet. So try not to do a whole lot of crazy, especially if you get a stabilizer, try not to do a whole lot of crazy zooms with your cameras. They kind of look a little choppy. They might look a little cheesy. You zoom as the creative professional, you zoom with your feet. Walk to where they are, follow them. don't just change your camera, because eventually they're going to leave that scene, and your stabilizer is really going to help you make a natural looking video that's also crisp and smooth. That's what we're going for here. Also, we want to make sure that we are splitting up the video into parts if it's longer. Let's say we're talking about pruning roses. You might have a couple of different segments, just like I have split all of this information into a bunch of different slides, so it's easier to give to y'all. It's easier to edit if I need to make them. Same kind of with video. Whenever I take video, I might cut it into a minimum of like 3 shots, and then I will literally label like 1, talking about pruning, 2, showing the pruning, 3, talking about the tools. That way you can look through all of your clips, and when you send it to a designer, oh, I'm not okay. There we go. Yeah, that way when you send it to your designer, they have an easier time. Excuse me, y'all. I think oh, there we go. Laptop came unplugged, and I don't want to die on y'all. Okay. Yeah. So if you need to take multiple takes, this is also a little bit easier. It's a lot easier to retake a 20-second clip than it is a 5-minute clip. That way you don't need to start from the beginning. Everyone's not getting tired. And the more I make a model do something, or the more I make an actor do something, the more likely they are to mess it up. If we had time, there's a really hilarious video of this couple trying to film a commercial, and the more he tries to say flaky, buttery crust, the more he messes it up, and it just kind of, it slows process. I also really recommend bring somebody, like bring an assistant, bring a couple if you have, someone for lighting, someone for like props and like dealing with actors and stuff. And I know that this sounds like it's going to be a big production. It can be as big or as small as you want. It could just be you and one other person out back. That's fine. But ideally, you'll have a lot of people who will want to be involved in this. But yeah, get somebody to keep time markers. And basically what that is if you're going through your shot list, you can write next to each shot what second in what clip it is in, so that if you said, hey, there's a footage of B-roll talking about this rose on clip number 2, second 13. That saves your editor so much time, as opposed to them having to go through and like watch the entire thing all over again, and then maybe they got the wrong one. So you can even write on that shot list, just take a little note, clip number 2, second 13, but then you can also keep a time marker. Every time you stop a clip, start that time marker, mark where you said, okay, part 2 starts at this second, part 3 starts at this second, or clip 1 is such and such. So, when they have those little markers in like old school cinematography, that's exactly what they were for, was to write notes on it and say what that clip was going to be, and when it, when it was, when things were going to happen. And this will also help Patrick Dennis's job, because he's going to be doing editing for y'all, and we want to help his process be as smooth as possible. He also suggests horizontal orientation. I agree. Horizontal will give you a lot more of the scenery. It'll look a lot more composed. And it's a better orientation, especially with your iPhone. If we're doing stories and TikToks and stuff, for sure, portrait. But for what we're doing for this process, let's keep it horizontal. Let's also try and keep our videos between 2 to 5 minutes. Social media, including YouTube, suggests that you hook people within the first 1 minute. But videos that are longer than a minute have a 90% more success rate. So yes, we love a quick get in and get out video, but especially for what we're doing, we want to keep it in between that 2 to 5, because that's where people are the most engaged, and that's where you're really teaching them something. For those stories and TikToks, if you plan to explore, remember portrait mode, and you really up to 90 seconds. Honestly, I feel like the shorter the TikTok, the better. If you get in and you say, hey, here's a bunch of roses that are growing in my garden right now, get in, get out, show them, it'll do really well. Let's see. So with that shot list and those time markers, you also want to make sure that you are writing down timestamps for info and edit requests. So you could say, okay, at this time marker, have a lower third, remember that term, pop up with our president's name and title. That's really helpful to make your videos, one, look really good, and keep that editing request quicker, rather than them having to scroll through the whole thing, or the video's already done, they've already rendered it, and you're like, well, nobody has a lower third, we don't know who anybody is. So make sure that you're also including those editing requests. And then get creative. You're not having to do the super hard part of editing and like just sifting through all of that and having all the right equipment. So take the time to really be creative. I definitely recommend trying to get some B-roll. That's where it's really fun. That's where you guys can really show off the beauty that is your gardens and your roses and just you all as people. Every rosarian from local rose societies that reaches out to me, I think you're all very nice people and really cool. These are really great ways for people to actually meet you. It's a lot easier to see a video of somebody and be like, wow, I think I could really get along with them, than it is to just see a picture and be like, wow, I think I could really be friends with them maybe. A video is really good for all of that. Play with those close-ups, that cut-in footage of, you know, members socializing, zooming on a rose, etc. There's a lot of opportunities for it, and really I'm super excited to see what y'all come up with. Let's see. So now we come to editing the video. This is probably the most time consuming, I would say. There's a couple of tools though that if you want to dabble, I'll be honest, every time they send me something to edit for the Rose Society or for the American Rose Society, I use everything I've included in here. I'm not an incredible, I can use all of these desktop softwares like Adobe Premiere and After Effects, and I could really spend the time, but you're talking about 10 hours when I've got to work on a magazine and this, that, or the other. So I use iMovie and Canva because it still looks really good, and as long as I'm starting with bare bones, a good webinar, good footage that I took, iMovie, Canva, all of the apps that you can get on your phone are going to do just fine for what you need. So starting with those web softwares, I mentioned Canva a bunch in the social media seminar. It is not like what super professional designers are using, but I think some of them should be. It's very quick. I use it every once in a while if I'm on the go and someone needs something. And they recently launched what I think is an easy to use, pretty inclusive. It's got some neat little tools on it, but they released a video editing kind of portion of it, and they have a lot of stock videos on there that, or stock video that exists as well. If you miss the shot, but like and just Canva is really good if you want to start that terminology for yours. Jumping on the editing process and learning the term yourself. If you just had a video while you're waiting on one from Patrick, you know, just play around with desktop softwares. And I'm sure these are familiar with the Adobe Creative Suite. Adobe Premiere Pro is great for main editing. After Effects is good for, like it kind of says, adding in effects, editing, and much more. Free ones will also work. Don't be afraid to play around with a couple on your phone. You can't really go super wrong with these. I mean, you know, show it to a few people before you post, but there's nothing wrong with just trying it out. Also, huge tip, try YouTube tutorials for all of these to make sure that you know how to do what they're telling you to. But a big tip is to always include captions and check the auto-generated ones. So TikTok and Reels, and oftentimes YouTube will auto-generate them for you, but make sure you go through and proofread those so they don't say crazy things. And there's two reasons: is people might be trying to watch and they don't have headphones, they don't want to listen. But the main one is that the internet is for everyone. So we need to, as strong, moral sounded creatives, we need to make sure that it is accessible to everyone. And that includes people who can't hear. It's the same with images. We always want to title, I always title images when I put them on our website with something that is very self-explanatory, because believe it or not, people who are blind use the internet and their computer will read everything in front of them. But if things aren't titled correctly, they are kind of missing out. They're literally in the dark on it. But yeah, so check those captions, check the auto-generated ones. It makes your views on your videos go up because you are following the accessible internet practices, which is actually a real organization that is trying to bridge that gap between people who are differently abled and the internet itself. And it'll boost your SEO. So let's see. I think that is all. Once again, I know I kind of rattled through a lot of things. I know this was very vague in a lot of terms, but I teach a whole course on this, so it's hard to kind of shove everything into one. But I just wanted to tell you like what tools are out there and kind of help you dip your toes in it. But if you have any questions or want to run some videos by me, I'd be super excited to take a look, and I can always hop on a Zoom call and walk you through something if you're a little lost. I've done that for a couple people since the social media seminar, and I'm here to help. So that is all I have. Let me try.
Okay, thank you, Emily. I learned a lot, and I used to be into technology when I was younger, so I learned a lot. Thank you. What I want to do was to give the people who are listening to this program an idea of, okay, what's next? I mean,
Yeah.
well, you know, because we've got a couple things set up that'll be helpful for them. But first I need to talk about the topics. Okay, the kinds of topics we're looking for. I mean, if you really want to get out there and start things going right away, Diane generated a list of general rose care, horticulture exhibiting, arrangements, and photography topics. And if you're interested to know what those ideas are, email me. Elena Williams, no, Minnie Rose, sorry. My email is minnierose@comcast.net. So if you need some ideas of what kind of videos to make, again, things we're doing now, winter protection in different climates. You might say, hi, I'm Elena, and I live in zone 4B, which I don't. I live in 8B. But, you know, just introduce yourself and where you are at. Like, I'm going to show you how to plant a rose today in Southern California. Or I'm going to show you, you know, that it's time to do spring pruning because my forsythia is blooming. You know, things like that. Let the viewers have some idea of where you are without giving out your name, address, and phone number. We also, like I said, we also want to get into some traditional horticulture exhibiting, arrangements, and photography for the, you know, the contests that we have. So those are the kinds of topics we're looking for. Now, short videos, nuggets. Diane's calling them little nuggets, 3 to 5 minutes, which you're not going to teach somebody everything there is to know about arranging. You might show them how to do a line arrangement, you know, or have one already done and just talk about, this is how I did it. So, you know, like Emily's been saying, get creative and think about it ahead of time. Then after you shoot this video, this is when you're going to contact Beth Smiley. She's beth@rose.org, and she's going to give you a link for a Dropbox. So all you have to do is upload your video to this Dropbox, and probably a short list of time roll markers for your B-roll for the editing. And a friend of John's who works at a television station runs a business in addition to what he does at the television station. His name is Patrick Dennis. He's going to be the person that's going to look, he's going to do the editing. So before Patrick does it, we'll have someone, a CR or someone who's, you know, the horticulture and exhibiting person, someone who's in charge of arrangements, look at it and say, yes, this is factual. We love this. Now we'll make sure Patrick's notified and he can come in and edit it. And then it will go back to Emily and it will get uploaded. So I wanted you to have some idea of what's going to happen after you shoot this video, how it's going to happen. And if you have questions, like I said, contact beth@rose.org or me, minnierose@comcast.net. And for all the technical things that Emily talked about today would be emily@rose.org. Okay, question and answers. I'm going to toss it back to Emily.
Am I still frozen? Can people see me?
Oh, we can still see you now.
I see you now. Hi, everyone. This is Merritt. I'm the assistant to the executive director at the American Rose Society, and we are going to go into the Q&A session. If you have a question, please click on the little hand icon in the control panel on your screen, and I will call your name for you to verbally ask your question.
While we're waiting for those first questions, this is Diane. Can you talk a little bit about B-roll again? So is that like a separate video or separate pictures? Or I wasn't quite sure what you, I mean, I understand the concept of what happens to it, but what exactly is it?
Good question. That's where that knowledge gap kind of comes in. I'll rattle off. But the B-roll footage is, so let's say you get to your shoot, you've got some down.
Oh, you froze again.
Yeah. Emma, you may want to turn your webcam off.
I think she's going to have to improve the internet at her new place.
All right, bear with us for just a moment, everyone. She's having a little tech issue, and I am communicating. Okay, a few more moments.
Was lost.
What happened to the Q&A?
Emily's just having a bit of a tech issue on the back end, and so she's working to get that resolved.
Well, maybe
Okay.
while she's doing that, this is Diane. So I think Elena laid out a good process, and I wanted just to kind of reemphasize what we're looking to do with this is be able to create some fun short videos on all aspects of not only, how it is to grow rose, but some of the enjoyment and, the hobby part of it, be it exhibiting, arranging, whatever, right? So that this will help with the visibility of your Rose Society. It'll help with the visibility of the American Rose Society. And so the plan is that throughout next year, as we get better at this, that we will continue to introduce these short video clips. We'll have to come up with a cool name for them throughout the season, right? And so I talked, for example, to Satish for a while, and he's going to work with his team on creating a whole list of what might be helpful to an exhibitor. It could be how to take that hybrid tea rose and get it, groom it to perfect exhibition form. It might be a short thing on here's all the cool things you should have in your grooming kit and what you can do with them, right? That sort of thing. So all these pieces of information, we all know so much about roses. How can we share that with our other rose friends and with the general public, especially as it comes to growing roses, selecting roses, caring for roses, etc. So I think it really can be fun, and it's another opportunity for us all to learn. So that's really cool too.
Can y'all hear me again?
Yep.
I had the worst. Okay, good. I had the worst internet just break there for a second. But yeah, I'm back now.
Okay, so I can't remember if we finished Diane's answer to her question about the
No,
B-roll difference.
we did not. Yeah.
Did I get cut off? Okay, well, yeah, so B-roll is just that, it's just that extra footage. I can pull up an example. It's just that extra shot of the garden. No one's really in it. It's just happening while the speaker's talking. So think like a documentary. If someone's speaking about like, some rose or something, they might show a picture or they might show footage while they're talking of them like holding it. And it's just a cutaway. So instead of sitting there watching the presenter talk, the presenter is still talking, but you're seeing different footage happening. So when you get to your shoot, you can just take videos of the gardens, of people mingling, of a table with all of these roses on it at a rose show. And then in between breaks, really there's no rules about B-roll. It's just what strikes you, what looks pretty, what might be engaging.
Okay, so they could be videos, or they might even be just simple shots of roses or something, depending upon your topic.
Yeah, not still images, but
Not still,
yeah, just footage, just, you know, something pretty to put to break up a really long speaking section or something.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, thank you, Diane. So we have a question from Denise.
Okay.
Denise, you can ask Emily your question. And you may have to unmute yourself. Okay. Well, we'll move on. Pam Powers. Pam, you'll need to unmute yourself.
It's on that toolbar up at the top.
In the control panel next to your name. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So at the beginning of your presentation, Emily, I thank you for, it was excellent. There was 10 hours a week on videos. Oh, what's that demographic?
So it varies. That's a general study on just all social media users. I would say it probably skews a lot younger. Like you're thinking like teenagers, which are new rose growers. We've got the rising stars out there too. But it's also, I think, a little bit older demographic as well. I think I'm in that weird kind of area where the only videos I really watch are ones on TikTok specifically. I mean, granted, I do a lot of social media, so I'm kind of tired of it at the end of the day, but that's just a general study on everyone. However, everybody could be a rose grower. So I would say that younger demographics is what really pushed for that higher, like a lot more social media platforms that are focused around video, because I mean, you think Snapchat, TikTok, Reels, Instagram, like all that is kind of social media platforms geared towards a younger audience. But I think that there's definitely, we have really, really good return on investment when we run ads on videos on Facebook, which is generally an older demographic and audience. So I think it kind of depends on what the content is.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Pam. Please raise your hand if you have a question for Emily. Looks like there's a question in chat from Donna Malazzo. Can you provide links to a few examples of what types of videos you are describing?
Yes, I'm wondering if they're talking about the B-roll maybe, examples of B-roll, or are they talking about what kind of videos Diane is requesting? I might need a little more clarification on that one. Or they can absolutely email me with that clarification and I can send the links directly to them.
Okay. Yeah, if you need that, Donna, her email is emily@rose.org.
That way I can kind of get a more specific idea of what you want and send you better ones rather than general stuff.
Yeah, this is Diane, and I wouldn't say we have a final list, and this is what it has to be, right?
Yeah.
Emily speaks a lot about creativity, and I'd let your creation go here, right? And I think the simplest thing, we think they're simple related to our rose hobby, are things that other people don't know about, right? You know, so I think the more we explore this and the more we ask questions and we get questions, I think it'll continue to expand.
I'm constantly getting like articles from y'all and stuff for Fragrant Rose and being just like astounded at how much there is about roses, how many tips y'all have, things I didn't know. I mean, I still don't know half of what I probably should, but I mean, y'all know a lot. Every article that's submitted to our magazine could also be a video. So there's boundless content to be made.
Emily, this is John. I have a number concerning what Pam was asking for. 49% of people that are 65 plus and older use YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. And a total of 62% of US YouTube users pay the site they visit daily. Well, so that's tied into some of those other things of joining ARS or joining your local Rose Society. And 81% of all US adults use YouTube in the United States. And so, in another demographic of those new Rosarians, 91% of 30 to 49-year-olds use YouTube.
I think that makes a lot of sense too, because YouTube, you have that opportunity for much longer content. I mean, it's no secret that you can't keep kids seated for longer than however long our attention spans are shorter, hence TikTok and Snapchat. But YouTube generally is the king of all of them because you can have whatever size you want. So it's not surprising to me that they do so well with that demographic.
Yeah.
All right, Stephen Mitchell says he needs the information for sending raw footage in again. So I think that was.
Yeah, so Beth Smiley, Beth at rose.org, if I understand this correctly, she has made a public folder that everyone, I would go in and
Excuse me.
I don't know if she specified this, but I would go in, huh?
Beth is making, you have to contact Beth because there is no public folder. She made a folder called 2022 CR videos. So random people can't just go into that folder. So that's why you have to contact Beth first, and she will tell you, or she will send you a link to get into that folder.
And please, 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 while I'm here, while I can say this, put a nice organized folder for the people that are going to be organizing this for you. Make it titled your name, and inside that folder, what the video topic is, because you could have multiple different videos in there that you want edited. And then inside there, you could include B-roll of garden. Just folder it really nicely, because when you're editing footage, I mean, I know I'm not doing it, but if he's doing this as a huge favor to us, make it as quick as he can by organizing and really titling those files and folders correctly. It will save so much time, I promise.
And again, Beth's email is beth@rose.org. All right, any other questions? Please raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon in your control panel or post it in the chat. Okay, well, I think that is it. No other questions are coming in, so. You're good. All right, did anyone want to say any last remarks before we close it out?
This is Diane. I'll just say thank you very much, Emily. I'm impressed by how much you know about this stuff. I have so much to learn, but I do think this can be fun. This can be great to support your local Rose Societies. It can be great to support the American Rose Society. And, I think it is the way that people are going, right? So, I mean, we have to get beyond, a PowerPoint presentation. This is our next step. And so we'll all learn together, and we'll have some fun with it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Show people what it's like to join. Y'all are all fun. You're all smart. You got this.
All right, thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. Please check your emails for next weekend's webinar. You received yesterday on that. So thank you again for attending, and have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.